The palace of Queen Yunhua stood tall under the twin suns of her home planet, Pyrothea. It was a place of beauty and power, where golden spires reached for the skies, and rivers of shimmering light flowed through crystal gardens. Yet despite its grandeur, sadness lingered in every corner of the palace. For decades, the queen had mourned the loss of her only daughter, Princess Subin. The princess had been taken from her as a child during the Great War, a conflict between humans and dragons that left scars on both sides. Queen Yunhua sat alone in the throne room, staring at an old holographic image of her daughter. In the picture, Subin smiled brightly, her small hands clutching a toy dragon gifted by her mother. That smile haunted Yunhua every day. She often wondered if her daughter was still alive, somewhere far away, and thinking of her. Outside the palace, servants whispered about strange rumors spreading across the galaxy. Travelers spoke of seeing a woman who looked like Subin near Earth's orbit. Some claimed she traveled with 2 human children. Others dismissed the stories as wishful thinking. But Queen Yunhua refused to ignore them. Every report gave her hope, however faint. One evening, as the twin suns dipped below the horizon, alarms blared throughout the palace. A spacecraft had entered Pyrothean airspace without permission. Guards rushed to the landing pad outside the palace gates, weapons ready. The queen herself hurried to the scene, her heart pounding with anticipation. When the ship finally touched down, a hush fell over the crowd. The hatch opened slowly, revealing 3 figures stepping into the twilight. The one was a young woman with flowing black hair and piercing eyes that mirrored the queen's own. Beside her stood 2 children, a boy and a girl, their faces filled with wonder as they took in the sight of the majestic palace. Yunhua froze, unable to believe what she saw. Could it really be her? "Subin," she whispered, her voice trembling. The young woman nodded, tears streaming down her face. "Mother," she said softly, taking a step forward. For a moment, time seemed to stop. Then Queen Yunhua ran to her daughter, embracing her tightly. Decades of pain melted away in that single moment of reunion. Behind them, the 2 children watched silently, holding hands. They were clearly close, sharing a bond that went beyond words. As the initial joy subsided, questions began to arise. Who were these children? Why had Subin returned now? And after so many years? And why did she bring humans with her? Back inside the palace, the royal court buzzed with speculation. Nobles whispered among themselves, some skeptical of Subin's sudden reappearance. Advisors warned the queen to tread carefully. Humans, they reminded her, could not be trusted. After all, it was humans who had abducted Subin in the first place. But Subin remained calm, explaining her story to her mother. She described how, after being captured, she had lived among humans. At first, they treated her as a prisoner, but over time, they came to see her as family. Jaemin, the boy, and Hewan, the girl, were born into different families, but became her closest friends. Together, they faced countless dangers, forming a bond stronger than blood. Jaemin and Hewan listened quietly as Subin spoke. Though nervous in the presence of dragons, they felt safe with her. To them, Subin was more than just a friend. She was a sister. Despite her love for her daughter, Queen Yunhua struggled to understand Subin's attachment to the humans. Dragons were proud creatures, rulers of the stars, while humans were seen as weak and unpredictable. How could her daughter care so deeply for being so different from her own kind? Tension grew within the palace. While the queen tried to reconcile her feelings, others plotted against Subin and her companions. Lord Kyung-su, a powerful noble with ambitions of his own, saw this as an opportunity to weaken the queen's rule. He believed that Subin's return and her alliance with humans threatened the purity of the Dragon Empire. Kyung-su gathered his allies, spreading fear and distrust among the nobles. "If we allow humans to walk freely among us," he declared, "our strength will crumble. We must act before it's too late." Meanwhile, Jae-min and Hai-wan explored the palace, marveling at its wonders. They wandered through halls filled with glowing artifacts and gardens where flowers sang in harmony. But not everyone welcomed them. Some servants glared at the children, muttering insults under their breath. Still, Jae-min and Hai-wan stayed brave, knowing that Subin would protect them. One night, as the palace slept, Jae-min noticed something unusual. A shadow moved across the courtyard, heading toward Subin's chambers. Quietly, he followed, his instincts telling him something was wrong. When he reached the door, he found a servant sneaking inside. The man carried a dagger. May his intentions clear. Without hesitation, Jae-min tackled the intruder, shouting for help. Guards arrived moments later, arresting the would-be assassin. News of the attack spread quickly, shocking the entire palace. Subin thanked Jae-min for his bravery, hugging him tightly. "You saved my life," she said. "I'll never forget that." Queen Eun-hwa also expressed her gratitude, beginning to see the children in a new light. Perhaps they weren't just humans. They were protectors, loyal, and courageous. Slowly, her heart began to soften. But danger still loomed. Kyung-soo's influence grew stronger, and his plans for betrayal became more sinister. As days passed, it became clear that Subin's return was only the beginning of a much larger struggle. For now, though, there was peace. The queen, her daughter, and the two children shared quiet moments together, rebuilding the bonds torn apart by war and time. Under the twin suns of Perothia, hope flickered like a tiny flame, promising brighter days ahead. The palace buzzed with activity as Queen Eun-hwa called for a meeting with her most trusted advisors. Subin's return had brought both joy and uncertainty, and the queen knew she needed answers. Why had her daughter stayed away for so long? What did the two human children mean to her? And how could she ensure their safety in a place where many saw them as outsiders? Subin sat quietly beside her mother, her hands resting on the table. Jae-min and Hai-wan waited outside the chamber, their faces tense. They weren't allowed to join the discussion, but they could feel the weight of the moment through the heavy wooden doors. Inside, the queen turned to Subin. "Tell me everything," she said gently. "Start from the beginning." Subin took a deep breath and began to speak. Her voice was steady, but her eyes glistened with memories of the past. She described how, after being abducted during the Great War, she was taken to Earth, a planet far removed from Pyrothia's golden spires and shimmering rivers. At first, humans treated her like a prisoner, keeping her locked away in a cold, dark room. But over time, some of them began to see her not as an enemy, but as a child who had lost her family. "They didn't know what to do with me at first," Subin explained. "But then one day, a man named Jin Seok found me crying. He brought me food and talked to me like I was his own daughter. After that, others started treating me differently too." As she spoke, and flashes of her childhood played out in her mind, she remembered the kindness of Jin Seok's wife, Mi Ryong, who taught her how to cook earth foods. She remembered playing hide-and-seek with other children in the fields, laughing until her sides hurt. And she remembered the night when Jae-min and Hye-won entered her life. Jae-min and Hye-won came from different families, but fate brought them together during a terrible storm. Their village had been attacked by raiders, leaving both of them orphaned. Subin, who was older by then, found them hiding in the ruins of a burned house. Without hesitation, she took them under her wing, promising to protect them no matter what. "They saved my life once," Subin told her mother. "When I was injured during a fight with rogue soldiers, they risked everything to get me medical help. Since then, we've been inseparable." Queen Eun-hwa listened intently, her expression softening. She could hear the love in her daughter's voice whenever she mentioned the children. Still, doubts lingered in her mind. Could humans truly be trusted? Or was this just another trick to weaken the Dragon Empire? Outside the chamber, Jaemin and Hyewan paced nervously. They didn't understand much of what was happening, but they could sense the tension in the air. Hyewan clutched Jaemin's hand tightly, seeking comfort. "What if they send us away?" she whispered. "They won't," Jaemin replied firmly. "Subin promised she'd keep us safe. She never breaks her promises." Back inside, the queen dismissed her advisors, wanting a private moment with her daughter. "I believe you, Subin," she said, "but not everyone will. You must be careful." Subin nodded. "I know, Mother, but I can't abandon Jaemin and Hyewan. They're my family now." The queen sighed, knowing her daughter was right. Family was everything to dragons, and if Subin considered these children her own, then they deserved protection. Still, she couldn't ignore the whispers of rebellion growing within the palace walls. Lord Kyung-soo watched from the shadows, his sharp eyes gleaming with malice. He had spent years plotting to overthrow Queen Yunhua, and Subin's return gave him the perfect opportunity. Humans were despised by most dragons, and Kyung-soo planned to use that hatred to turn the court against the queen. He sent spies to gather information about Subin and her companions. One of them, a servant named Dal-Yun, was tasked with getting close to Jaemin and Hyewan. Posing as a friendly guide, Dal-Yun offered to show them around the palace. "Come with me," he said with a warm smile. "There's something special I want to show you." Curious, the children followed him through winding hallways until they reached a secluded garden. The flowers here were unlike anything they'd ever seen, glowing softly in shades of blue and purple. But before they could marvel at the beauty, Dal-Yun's demeanor changed. His smile vanished, replaced by a cold glare. "You shouldn't have come here," he hissed. "Humans don't belong in this palace." Jaemin stepped forward, shielding Hyewan with his body. "We're not here to cause trouble," he said bravely. "We're here because Subin trusts us." Dal-Yun laughed cruelly. "Trust means nothing. Soon you'll see that dragons only care about their own kind." Before he could say more, Subin appeared, her eyes blazing with anger. "Leave them alone!" she shouted. "If you harm them, you'll answer to me." Dal-Yun backed away, bowing slightly. "Forgive me, Princess. I meant no disrespect." But his tone was laced with mockery. After he left, Subin knelt beside the children, checking to make sure they were unharmed. "Are you okay?" she asked. "We're fine," Jaemin replied, though his hands trembled slightly. "But why does everyone hate us?" "It's not everyone," Subin assured him. "Just a few bad people. Don't let them scare you." Later that evening, Subin decided it was time to teach Jaemin and Hyewan how to defend themselves. Though she hoped they would never need to fight, she knew danger was always nearby. Leading them to a training ground outside the palace, she showed them basic combat techniques using ancient dragon methods. "I'll focus your energy," she instructed. "Feel the strength inside you." At first, the children struggled, their movements clumsy and awkward. But with practice, they began to improve. Jaemin discovered he had a natural talent for quick reflexes, while Hyewan excelled at strategy, anticipating her opponent's moves. Watching from afar, Queen Eunhua felt a pang of pride. Despite her reservations, she couldn't deny the bond between Subin and the children. It reminded her of her own relationship with her daughter, strong, unbreakable, and filled with love. As days passed, tensions in the palace continued to rise. Kyung-soo grew bolder, rallying supporters to his cause. He claimed that allowing humans into the Dragon Empire would lead to disaster, weakening their strength and inviting invasion. Many nobles agreed, at their fear of humans outweighing their loyalty to the queen. But not everyone sided with Kyung-soo. Some, like Lady Ji-eun, believed in unity. "We cannot keep living in fear," she argued during a heated debate. If we refuse to trust others, we doom ourselves to isolation." Her words resonated with a few, but most remained unconvinced. The divide between factions deepened, threatening to tear the empire apart. Meanwhile, Jaemin and Hyawan continued to adapt to life in the palace. They explored every corner, learning about the history and culture of the dragons. Though some servants still treated them poorly, others began to warm up to them, impressed by their courage and determination. One night, as they lay beneath the stars, Jaemin turned to Hyawan. "Do you think we'll ever truly belong here?" he asked. Hyawan smiled softly. Maybe not, but as long as we have each other and Subin, we'll be okay." Unbeknownst to them, greater challenges lay ahead. Kyungsu's plans were nearing completion, and soon, the fragile peace within the palace would shatter. But for now, they held on to hope, cherishing the moments of happiness they found in this strange new world. The days that followed were filled with tension. Lord Kyungsu's influence grew stronger, spreading fear and distrust among the nobles. Whispers of rebellion echoed through the palace corridors, and Queen Yunhua could feel her authority slipping away. The presence of Jaemin and Hyewan only fueled the flames of dissent. To many dragons, their very existence was a threat, a symbol of weakness in the Dragon Empire. Subin noticed the change in the air. The servants who once greeted her warmly now avoided her gaze. Even some of her childhood friends kept their distance, unwilling to be associated with someone so closely tied to humans. But Subin refused to let fear dictate her actions. She spent her days training Jaemin and Hyewan, determined to prepare them for whatever challenges lay ahead. One evening, as the twin suns set over Pyrothea, casting golden light across the palace gardens, Hyewan approached Subin with a question. "Why do they hate us so much?" she asked softly. "We haven't done anything wrong." Subin knelt beside her, placing a hand on her shoulder. "They're afraid," she explained. "Afraid of what they don't understand. Humans and dragons have fought for centuries, and old wounds take time to heal." "But we're not like those humans," Jaemin interjected. "We're not here to fight. We just want to help you." "I know," Subin said with a small smile. "And that's why we'll prove them wrong. Together." Unbeknownst to them, Kyungsu watched from a distance, his sharp eyes narrowing as he observed their interactions. He despised the bond between Subin and the children, seeing it as a dangerous sign of weakness. In his mind, dragons should never lower themselves to trust humans. It was time to act. Kyungsu gathered his closest allies in a hidden chamber deep beneath the palace. The room was dimly lit, its walls lined with ancient weapons and maps of the empire. He stood at the center, his voice low but commanding. "The queen has grown soft," he declared. "She lets humans walk freely among us, poisoning our strength. If we don't stop this madness, the Dragon Empire will fall." His followers nodded in agreement, their faces shadowed by determination. One of them, a fierce warrior named Min Su, stepped forward. "What do you propose, my lord?" "We strike at the heart of the problem," Kyungsu replied. "The children. If we remove them, Subin will lose her resolve, and the queen will see reason." Min Su hesitated. "It's risky. The queen won't stand for it." "Then we make it look like an accident," Kyungsu said coldly. "Leave no trace, and the blame will fall elsewhere." The plan was set into motion. That night, Min Su led a group of soldiers to the outskirts of the palace, where Jaemin and Hyewan often trained with Subin. They waited in silence, their weapons ready. Meanwhile, Jaemin had been unable to sleep. Something felt off, though he couldn't quite explain why. Slipping out of bed, he decided to check on Hyewan, who slept in the next room. As he passed by a window, he noticed movement outside, a shadow darting across the courtyard. Curious, he grabbed a small dagger Subin had given him for emergencies and crept toward the source of the disturbance. When he reached the training ground, he saw Min Su and his men hiding behind pillars, their swords gleaming in the moonlight. Jae-min's heart raced. He knew he couldn't face them alone, but he also couldn't let them harm Hye-won. Thinking quickly, he ran back to the palace, waking Subin and Hye-won. "They're here," Jae-min whispered urgently. "Soldiers near the training ground, I think they're after us." Subin's eyes widened. "Stay close to me," she ordered, grabbing a staff leaning against the wall. Together, the three of them hurried outside, moving silently through the shadows. When they reached the training ground, Min Su stepped forward, blocking their path. "This ends now," he growled. "You've caused enough trouble." Subin raised her staff, her voice steady. "If you want them, you'll have to go through me." Without warning, Min Su lunged at her, his sword slicing through the air. Subin blocked the attack with ease, her movements fluid and precise. Jae-min and Hye-won stayed close, doing their best to avoid the chaos. Hye-won spotted a loose stone on the ground and hurled it at one of the soldiers, distracting him long enough for Subin to disarm him. Jae-min, meanwhile, used his quick reflexes to dodge another attacker, knocking him off balance with a well-placed kick. Despite their efforts, the odds were against them. Just as Min Su prepared to strike again, that a loud roar shook the ground. Queen Eun-hwa appeared, flanked by royal guards. Her eyes burned with fury as she surveyed the scene. "What is the meaning of this?" she demanded, her voice echoing through the courtyard. Min Su froze, caught off guard. "My queen," he stammered. "These humans, they're a danger to our people." Eun-hwa's expression hardened. "Enough lies. I know who sent you." She turned to the guards. "Arrest him and his men." As Min Su and his followers were taken away, Kyung-soo watched from a hidden balcony, his fists clenched in anger. His plan had failed, but he wasn't finished yet. There were other ways to weaken the queen's rule. Back inside the palace, Queen Eun-hwa addressed Subin and the children. "You have my protection," she assured them. "And no harm will come to you while I live." Subin bowed her head in gratitude. "Thank you, Mother." But the danger wasn't over. Kyung-soo continued to spread propaganda, turning more dragons against the queen. He claimed that allowing humans into the empire would invite invasion, painting Jae-min and Hye-won as symbols of destruction. Despite the growing unrest, Jae-min and Hye-won remained steadfast. They trained harder than ever, determined to prove their worth. Subin taught them advanced combat techniques, showing them how to channel their inner strength. Under her guidance, they became skilled fighters, capable of holding their own against even the strongest opponents. One day, during a practice session, Hye-won surprised everyone by defeating a seasoned soldier in a sparring match. The crowd erupted in cheers, and even some of the skeptical nobles began to take notice. Perhaps these humans weren't as weak as they seemed. Queen Eun-hwa watched proudly, realizing that her daughter's bond with the children was something special, a glimpse of hope in a fractured world. She called Subin to her chambers later that evening. "You've done well," the queen said, "not just as a fighter, but as a leader. These children, you've shown them kindness, strength, and loyalty. That's what makes a true ruler." Subin smiled, feeling a sense of pride she hadn't known in years. "I learned it all from you, Mother." But the peace was short-lived. Kyung-soo's rage boiled over, and he devised a new plan, one that would force the queen's hand. Using forged documents, he convinced several high-ranking officials that Earth was planning an attack on Pyrothea. And panic spread throughout the palace, and calls for war grew louder. Queen Eun-hwa refused to believe the accusations, but pressure mounted from all sides. She knew Kyung-soo was behind the rumors, but proving it would be difficult. For now, she focused on keeping Subin and the children safe. Late one night, as the palace slept, Kyung-soo made his move. He sent a group of spies to kidnap Jae-min, hoping to use him as leverage against Subin. But Jae-min, alert and resourceful, managed to escape, leaving behind clues that pointed directly to Kyung-soo. When the evidence was presented to the queen, there was no denying Kyung-soo's treachery. He was arrested and brought before the court, his crimes exposed for all to see. Though the immediate threat was neutralized, the damage had been done. Trust within the empire was fragile, and tensions remained high. Through it all, Subin, Jae-min, and Hae-won stood united, their bond stronger than ever. They knew the road ahead wouldn't be easy, but they were ready to face whatever challenges came their way, together. The arrest of Lord Kyung-soo sent shockwaves through the Dragon Empire. His betrayal had been exposed, and his plans to overthrow Queen Eun-hwa were laid bare for all to see. Yet even with Kyung-soo behind bars, the damage he caused lingered. The seeds of distrust he had planted continued to grow, threatening to divide the empire further. Subin, Jae-min, and Hae-won felt the tension as they moved through the palace. Whispers followed them wherever they went. Some dragons looked at them with suspicion, while others admired their bravery during the recent attack. Despite the mixed reactions, Subin remained determined to protect her human companions and prove that unity between species was possible. Queen Eun-hwa worked tirelessly to restore order. She held meetings with her advisors, urging them to focus on rebuilding trust rather than fueling fear. But not everyone shared her vision. Many nobles still believed humans were a threat, and some openly questioned the queen's decisions. One evening, as the twin suns cast a warm glow over the palace gardens, Queen Eun-hwa called Subin, Jae-min, and Hae-won to her private chambers. Her expression was serious, but kind. "We must prepare for what's coming," she said. "Kyung-soo may be imprisoned, but his followers are still out there. They won't stop until they've achieved their goal." "What do you mean?" Subin asked, her voice steady but laced with concern. "They're planning an attack," the queen explained. "Not just on us, but on Earth. They believe destroying human settlements will weaken any alliance we might form." Jae-min's eyes widened. "My family, my people, they're in danger?" Eun-hwa nodded grimly. "Yes, and if we don't act quickly, countless lives will be lost." Subin clenched her fists. "Then we fight." The queen placed a hand on her daughter's shoulder. "It won't be easy. This battle will test everything we stand for. But I know you're ready." Over the next few days, preparations began. Subin trained Jae-min and Hae-won harder than ever, teaching them advanced combat techniques and strategies. Together, they practiced coordinating attacks, learning how to use each other's strengths to overcome weaknesses. And Subin also introduced them to ancient dragon weapons, tools powered by energy drawn from the stars. "You'll need these," she said, handing them small, glowing orbs. "They'll amplify your abilities. Just focus your thoughts, and the power will come." Hae-won turned the orb over in her hands, feeling its warmth. "Will it really work?" she asked hesitantly. "It will," Subin assured her. "But remember, power isn't enough. You need courage and teamwork too." As the training intensified, word spread throughout the empire about the upcoming battle. Dragons loyal to Queen Eun-hwa gathered in the palace courtyard, pledging their support. Among them was Lady Ji-eun, who stepped forward to address the crowd. "We cannot let fear rule us," she declared, her voice ringing clear. "For centuries we've fought against humanity. But look where it has brought us, to division and hatred. It's time to choose a new path, a path of peace and unity." Her words inspired many, but not everyone agreed. Some dragons muttered under their breath, refusing to join the fight. Others simply stayed away, unwilling to risk their lives for a cause they didn't believe in. Meanwhile, Kyung-soo's followers prepared for war. Hidden in the mountains beyond the palace, they assembled an army of rogue dragons, armed with stolen technology and fueled by anger. Their leader, a fierce warrior named Min-Su, vowed to carry out Kyung-Su's plan, even if it meant sacrificing himself. "Our strength lies in our purity," Min-Su told his troops. "Humans are weak. By destroying them, we prove our superiority." On the day of the battle, the skies above Pyrothea darkened with storm clouds. Lightning crackled as both sides took their positions. On one side stood Queen Yunhua's forces, a mix of dragons and humans united by a shared purpose. On the other side loomed Min-Su's army, their eyes blazing with determination. The clash began with a deafening roar. Dragons soared through the air, breathing fire and unleashing powerful blasts of energy. Humans fought alongside them, wielding weapons forged from starlight and courage. Jaemin and Haiwan moved like shadows, darting between enemies with precision and speed. Their training paid off as they disabled enemy ships and protected their allies. Subin led the charge, her movements graceful yet deadly. She faced Min-Su directly, their powers colliding in a burst of light. Each strike was met with equal force, neither willing to back down. "You can't win!" Min-Su snarled. "Your bond with humans makes you weak." "It's what makes me strong," Subin replied calmly. With a surge of energy, she knocked him off balance, sending him crashing to the ground. Nearby, Jaemin spotted a group of rogue dragons targeting Queen Yunhua. Without hesitation, he ran toward them, using his quick reflexes to dodge their attacks. He hurled one of the glowing orbs Subin had given him, creating a barrier of light that shielded the queen. "Thank you," Yunhua said, her voice filled with gratitude. "I promised Subin I'd protect you," Jaemin replied with a grin before rushing back into the fray. Haiwan proved herself just as brave. Using her strategic mind, she coordinated attacks, directing allies to exploit weaknesses in the enemy's defenses. When a rogue dragon cornered her, she used her surroundings to her advantage, luring him into a trap and disarming him with a well-placed kick. As the battle raged on, the tide began to turn. Queen Yunhua's forces pushed forward, their unity giving them strength. Min-Su's army faltered, their resolve crumbling under the weight of their losses. Finally, Subin confronted Min-Su once more. This time, she didn't hold back. Channeling all her energy, she unleashed a wave of starlight, engulfing him in brilliance. When the light faded, Min-Su lay defeated, his armor cracked, and his pride shattered. With their leader gone, the remaining rogues surrendered. The battle was over, but victory came at a cost. Many had been injured, and some had lost their lives. As the survivors gathered in the aftermath, Queen Yunhua addressed them, her voice heavy with emotion. "Today, we have shown that unity is stronger than division," she said. "Dragons and humans fought side by side, proving that our differences do not define us. Let this be the beginning of a new era, an era of peace." The crowd erupted in cheers, but Subin, Jaemin, and Haiwan stood quietly, reflecting on the sacrifices made. Though they had triumphed, they knew the scars of war would take time to heal. Back in the palace, the queen embraced her daughter, tears streaming down her face. "You've done what I couldn't," she whispered. "You've shown us the way forward." Subin smiled, pulling Jaemin and Haiwan close. "We did it together." In the days that followed, news of the battle spread across the galaxy. Humanity learned of the bravery displayed by Subin and her companions, sparking hope for future alliances. Dragons, too. I began to see humans in a new light, realizing that cooperation could lead to greater strength. But the journey was far from over. Challenges still lay ahead, and old wounds would take time to mend. For now, though, there was peace. A fragile but hopeful peace built on trust and sacrifice. Under the twin suns of Pyrothea, Subin, Jaemin, and Haiwan stood together, gazing at the horizon. They knew their bond had changed the course of history, paving the way for a brighter future. And though the road ahead would be difficult, They faced it with unwavering determination. The aftermath of the battle brought both relief and reflection. The skies above Pyrothea cleared, revealing the twin suns shining brightly once more. Dragons and humans worked side by side to rebuild what had been damaged during the conflict. And though scars remained, both physical and emotional, the unity forged in the heat of battle continued to grow stronger. Queen Yunhua called for a grand assembly in the palace courtyard, inviting representatives from across the galaxy. It was time to address not only her own people, but also humanity as a whole. The message she wanted to send was clear. Peace was possible, but it required effort and trust from both sides. Subin stood beside her mother, flanked by Jaemin and Hyewan. The children looked older now, their faces marked by the trials they had endured. Yet there was a quiet confidence in their eyes, a sense that they had found their place in this vast universe. As the crowd gathered, Queen Eunhua stepped forward, her voice carrying across the courtyard. "For too long we have lived in fear of one another," she began. Thus dragons saw humans as weak, unpredictable, and dangerous. Humans saw dragons as arrogant, powerful, and unapproachable. But today, we stand together, proving that our differences can become our greatest strength. She paused, letting her words sink in before continuing. This victory would not have been possible without the courage and sacrifice of many, including 2 remarkable humans who fought alongside us. She gestured toward Jaemin and Hyewan, who shifted nervously under the attention. "They remind us that bravery knows no species. Loyalty and love transcend boundaries." Applause erupted from the crowd, though some dragons still hesitated, their expressions guarded. Change wouldn't come overnight, but the seeds of understanding had been planted. After the assembly, Subin took Jaemin and Hyewan aside. "You've done so much," she said, her voice filled with pride. "But I know it hasn't been easy for you." Jaemin shrugged, trying to act tough. "We promised to protect you, didn't we? That's all that matters." Hyewan smiled softly. "And we'll keep doing it, for as long as you need us." Subin hugged them tightly, feeling grateful for their unwavering support. Over the years, they had become more than just friends, they were family. Together, they had faced danger, loss, and uncertainty, emerging stronger on the other side. Queen Eunhua approached them moments later. "There's something I want to show you," she said, leading them to a secluded part of the palace gardens. There, beneath a canopy of glowing flowers, stood 3 statues carved from shimmering crystal. One depicted Subin, her arms outstretched as if welcoming others. And beside her were Jaemin and Hyewan, their figures captured mid-motion, radiating energy and determination. "These are for you," the queen explained. "A reminder of what you've achieved, a symbol of hope for future generations." Tears welled up in Hyewan's eyes as she reached out to touch the statue of herself. "Thank you," she whispered, struggling to find the right words. "It's beautiful," Jaemin added, his voice cracking slightly. Subin smiled, feeling a warmth spread through her chest. For the first time in years, she felt truly at home, not just in the palace, but in the bonds she shared with those around her. In the weeks that followed, diplomatic efforts between dragons and humans intensified. Representatives from Earth traveled to Pyrothea, eager to learn about the Dragon Empire and establish lasting alliances. Jaemin and Hyewan became honorary ambassadors, bridging the gap between the 2 races. Their presence reassured skeptics on both sides, showing that cooperation wasn't just an ideal, it was achievable. One evening, as the stars twinkled overhead, Jaemin and Hyewan sat with Subin on a balcony overlooking the palace grounds. They talked about their past, their struggles, and their dreams for the future. "Do you ever think about going back to Earth?" Subin asked gently. Jaemin shook his head. "Not really. This is our home now, with you." Hyewan nodded in agreement. Besides, we still have so much to do here. There's still work to be done, to make sure everyone understands why we're fighting for peace. Subin smiled, knowing they were right. The journey ahead wouldn't be easy, but they were ready to face it together. And Queen Eunhua joined them shortly afterward, carrying a tray of tea. "I never thought I'd see the day when humans and dragons could sit together like this," she admitted, her voice tinged with wonder. "But here we are." "Change takes time," Subin replied, "but it starts with small steps." The queen nodded, sipping her tea thoughtfully. "Yes, and those small steps lead to bigger ones." As the night wore on, laughter echoed through the air, a sound that hadn't been heard in the palace for decades. Servants passing by couldn't help but smile, noticing how different things felt now. Gone was the tension and distrust. In its place was a sense of hope, a belief that the future could be brighter than the past. But even amid the joy, memories lingered. Subin often found herself thinking about the sacrifices made during the war, the lives lost, the friendships broken. She visited the memorial garden daily, paying respects to those who had given everything for the cause. Each name etched into the crystal walls reminded her of the cost of peace and the importance of protecting it. One day, while walking through the garden, Subin stumbled upon a hidden plaque she hadn't noticed before. It bore a single line of text. "Only unity can prevent the fall of both races." She traced the words with her fingers, feeling a chill run down her spine. It was the same prophecy that had guided her and her companions throughout their journey. Returning to the palace, Subin shared the discovery with Jae-min and Hyewan. "Do you think it's over?" Hyewan asked hesitantly. "Do you think we've fulfilled the prophecy?" "I don't know," Subin admitted. "But I do know this. We've taken the first step. The rest is up to us, and everyone else willing to follow." Days turned into weeks, and life in the palace settled into a new rhythm. Subin officially took her place as heir to the throne, vowing to lead with compassion and wisdom. Jae-min and Hyewan continued their roles as ambassadors, traveling between Earth and Perothia to foster understanding and cooperation. Their bond grew stronger with each passing day, proving that love and loyalty transcended species. Stories of their bravery spread far and wide, inspiring others to embrace change and seek unity. One evening, as the twin suns dipped below the horizon, Subin, Jae-min, and Hyewan stood together on the palace balcony, gazing at the stars. Now they knew their journey was far from over. Greater challenges awaited them in the vast expanse of the galaxy. But for now, they allowed themselves a moment of peace, cherishing the hard-fought harmony they had created. "We've come so far," Hyewan murmured, leaning against Jae-min. "And we'll go even farther," Subin added, her eyes shining with determination. "Together." As the stars twinkled above them, a sense of hope filled the air. The road ahead would be long and uncertain, but they faced it with courage and faith. After all, their journey was only beginning.